Even though I've got a cold and I am a little bit cognitively slowed down, I cannot tell you how much more I can do now that I don't have the American trip. To think about, I just feel so much better, more able to concentrate. I've been able to upload these videos, which is great because I couldn't do that before. I mean, I just could not, figure out the problem. It's two buttons, and it's just going around a different way. But I was quite ill. And actually, during my trip, I really didn't suffer from very much anxiety. On the way to the airport, maybe I was very lucky. Bill took me to the airport, but in terms of anything else, the only time I noticed anything was while I was in San Francisco airport on the way home, and three things happened. The first thing you must be aware of is that I do have a slight visual impairment. And it's not huge, but I don't always quite. Well, I think that it's more, to be honest, it's more being autistic than a visual impairment. I mean, I couldn't see to drive, for example, and I can see things in a distance, but I just can't read them. So, like, sometimes it can be a bit difficult to read signs and things, like at Liverpool Street train station, for example. But that's really the only time I ever noticed it. Obviously, I wear glasses for reading, but there isn't anything that I can do more at the moment to improve my that side of my vision. And when I arrived at the airport, generally you just go to the desk and you say that you'd like a boarding pass, because I didn't have any baggage to check in. Now, I could see that there was a queue. I mean, I'm not that blind. But I figured that the queue, looking at it, it was for people who had bags. There wasn't anyone who didn't have bags. So I presumed that was just for people who needed to check in luggage, and I didn't. So I went up to the next available counter assistant and I said, yeah, I need a boarding pass. I don't have any luggage to check in. And he said, are you next? And I said, well, I think so. And I was so anxious about going on this aeroplane, because I'd had a bit of problem with my ears beforehand, that I just wasn't I wasn't able to process the situation very well. And then when I went through security, I got through, well, you don't go through security straight away. Once you get a boarding pass, then you go in the queue to security. And the queue, for some reason, was in two parts. And I went through the first part fine, and then I got stopped by an airport official. And he's like, I had a camera bag and a carrier bag, which both fitted fine under the airplane seat, which is the rule. You have to, the stuff you take on board, you can take one like rucksack or bag on wheels that you can put in the overhead compartment, and then you can take stuff to put under the seat. Now, I know that technically you are only allowed to take one bag, but I also know you can buy stuff from duty free and put it in a carrier bag, and that's no problem. So I said to him, well, I've been on 4 flights with both these bags, and it's never been a problem, and they do both fit under the seat. And so I sort of stood there going, and he eventually let me through. And then in security, I thought I'd emptied everything out in terms of pockets and things like that, and the alarm went off, and I had a panic attack. And I can't demonstrate to you what a panic attack is like, because I can't. But basically, if you run out of your ability, you run too fast for a too long amount of time, and your breathing becomes very deep, and you are quite sort of gasping for breath. That is what it's like having a panic attack. And I was clutching my sides, and I was scared of nothing. There was nothing to be scared of. I'd just set the alarm off because I had change in my pocket, which I knew that by the time the alarm went off, and it had happened before, and I'd got a greater reaction out of the security guards the last time it happened than I did then, and so it shouldn't have been a problem. But I panicked, and I just wanted to curl up on the floor. And this woman standing next to me, she obviously knew what a panic attack was and started trying to help me to breathe, and this guy who worked for the airport brought me some water. And when I got through security, I just stood with my back to everybody because I just felt so embarrassed. Because here I was, and I couldn't even communicate to them. I didn't want to say that I was autistic, because I was worried. Well, I thought if I say I'm autistic, people aren't going to know what that means anyway, because But I just thought they wouldn't. I don't know. I mean, you don't think very clearly when you're having a panic attack, or just afterwards, because you're kind of confused. And so, I mean, it just made it really difficult. And I just felt, I don't normally feel embarrassed, to be honest, but that made me feel embarrassed and really rude to the people that were offering me help, because all I wanted was just for people to go away and for me to stand there. And really, I did want help. I wanted someone who I knew to come and sit with me for a while, but I mean, there wasn't anyone I knew. I was all by myself, so that was really the only time I ever had any problem. The rest of the time, I was absolutely fine. And my mum and dad thought that I wouldn't be. They didn't think I'd manage the airport, so I was really glad that I did. And in fact, you know, I flew from London to JFK, which is in New York, and then from JFK to LAX, which is Los Angeles, and then LAX to SFO, which is San Francisco, and then SFO to LAX, and then LAX back to Heathrow. So that's like 6 flights, and I managed perfectly fine all through that time until that one little glitch in San Francisco. So that was good.